Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the 14th Safety Gala. Today we have about 900 participants from more than 56 countries, making this conference a truly international one. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Yesterday we had the opportunity to hear very rich insights on some very challenging health and safety issues of our times. We had the opportunity to hear about the legal requirements companies will have to comply with in terms of proving that they are indeed implementing a good governance of their resources. Our speakers highlighted the importance of prioritizing the integration of ESG elements into their operations. The message we got from it was that it is only a matter of time before ESG performance disclosures become non-negotiable. Our session about the challenges and opportunities for occupational health and safety in the post-COVID era was indeed very interesting. I think that the most important message we got from our speakers was that in times of disruption, we need to respond in the best possible way with the available resources we have. So here, the proactive measure still remains the key player, and from there, the difference will make in the way we respond to the unpredictable events. As we have tested and tested and tested again our ERPs. In this regard, improving safety culture remains fundamental to the functions of risk management. While there are many factors that contribute to effective EHS management within a company, the most critical remains the strong, committed, and engaged leadership. So the outcome from session 3 was that science, we can manage only what we can measure. Safety performance indicators are vital in understanding the true state of health and safety in a company. Nevertheless, one challenge of the upcoming years will be how to manage the big data collected. In our session 4, our speakers highlighted how the area of occupational safety and health is strongly connected with sustainability. The connection of circular economy with the HS was also discussed. We ended our day with a very interesting roundtable on how to prepare for the unexpected, what we have learned from COVID, and again, all participants agreed that the important is to be prepared and test our measures response plans because, as they said, if you are well trained for the foreseen scenarios, most likely you will successfully respond to the unforeseen ones. So today, we will focus on how to manage risk in high-risk industries, how the system safety practice can optimize the safety of our systems. The session reaching new heights in safety is all about reaching excellence. In session 8, we will have the opportunity to listen about the key issues for maintaining safety standards within the tourism sector and the best practice. And session 9 will address fire management, protection, and safety. We will end our day with the roundtable where the participants will discuss about the project's life cycle safety. That said, I shall now pass the floor to Mr. Asterios Lialios. He's the Health Safety Environment Manager of LP Aspropyrgos Industrial Complex, who will be moderating our session 5, Managing Risk in High-Risk Industries. Mr. Lialios is a chemical engineer graduated from the National Technical University of Athens, and he has also a degree in business administration from Alba. He has started his career at the petroleum refinery in the 2000s and moved to LP in 2004, where he worked in various departments. Mr. Lialios, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nilza. Welcome, everybody. Indeed, it's a very interesting topic, the one that we will talk about in our session today, managing risk in high-risk industries. All industries have risk. However, in in jobs like mining, oil and gas, nuclear, electricity, the stakes are high because one mistake could have catastrophic consequences, not only for the business itself, but for the surrounding community and the economy. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Davtsis Emanuel from Hellas Gold. If I had to read his whole CV, it would consume all the time for his speech. So I'll just say that he's a chemist with more than 20 years experience in chemistry and education, and more than 15 years in health, safety, and environment. He's going to talk about one of my personal favorite topics, which is emergency response preparedness. Hope for the best and plan for the worst. So, Mr. Davtsis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Lalios. I share my screen first. Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation to present you our initiatives as a company of mining sectors. The title of my presentation is Emergency Response Team Preparedness, and for us it's something very important. And I think that for most of the high-risk industries also. The context of presentation are presented in this slide. After my presentation of the company, I will focus on the emergency in the workplace, how the emergency response team can be the last line of defense. And then I will pass to the preparedness of the organization, infrastructures, equipments, people, and how the new technologies can support us to improve our knowledge and support the emergency response team training. Before starting my presentation, I considered my obligation to give you a brief presentation of our company, Hellas Gold, which is an Eldorado Gold subsidiary company which operates in Chalkidiki Prefecture. A short video will give you a quick update.
Από την πρώτη μέρα που δραστηριοποιήθηκε στη Χαλκιδική, η Ελληνικός Χρυσός άσκησε μια μεταλλευτική δραστηριότητα υπεύθυνη και πολλαπλά ωφέλιμη για τον τόπο μας και την κοινωνία. Σήμερα ήρθε η στιγμή για την πλήρη ανάπτυξη μιας επένδυσης στο ορόσημο για την Ελλάδα. Τα μεταλλεία Κασάνδρας γυρίζουν σελίδα με ένα σύγχρονο επενδυτικό σχέδιο που μεγιστοποιεί τα ωφέλη για όλους. Ενισχύει ακόμα πιο ουσιαστικά την εθνική οικονομία και την αναπτυξιακή προοπτική της χώρας. Συμβάλλει ακόμα αποφασιστικά στην τόνωση της ποιοτικής απασχόλησης. Ενδυναμώνει ακόμα πιο κέρια την τοπική κοινωνία με εμβληματικά έργα και επενδύσεις κοινωνικού χαρακτήρα. Προστατεύει ακόμα πιο αποτελεσματικά το περιβάλλον με γενναίες επενδύσεις σε τεχνολογίες αιχμής που ελαχιστοποιούν το αποτύπωμα της μεταλλευτικής δραστηριότητας. Το νέο επενδυτικό σχέδιο της Ελληνικός Χρυσός φέρνει την επόμενη μέρα για τα μεταλλεία Κασάνδρας και μια νέα εποχή για τη χώρα μας, όπου η υπεύθυνη αξιοποίηση του ορυκτού πλούτου γίνεται πηγή ευημερίας για όλους. Ελληνικός Χρυσός. Ο ορυκτός μας πλούτος, ανάπτυξη για όλους.
According to the historical testimonies, the mining activities in the region of Chalkidiki covers a period of about 25 centuries. It's not something new here. The first evidence of mining dates close to 6th century before Christ. The main reason was to be financing the Macedonian kingdom and the empire of Alexander the Great. Following the same way, for breaking new grounds, we can achieve a development of Eldorado assets, which could pave the way for future mineral investment by the global mining industry. In the area of the northern Greece, exceed more than 72 billions of ore bodies, and we need to use them. Cassandra mine assets today. The Cassandra mines are located in northeastern Chalkidiki within the administrative boundaries of the Aristotle municipality. 3 different mines belong to their assets. Olympias mine, which is a golden mixed sulfide ore body. A modernized mine operated there with the corresponding flotation plant. Stratoni mine, which is also well known as Mavres Petres mine, another mixed sulfide ore body, which also has a significant amount of silver. A modernized mine, which is in a care and maintenance status right now, with a corresponding flotation plant. And Skouries mine, which is a new mine under construction, which had been completed close to 50% of it. A gold, copper, porphyric ore body exists there. During all that years, Hellas Gold has made a significant capital investment of over 1.2 billion and remain committed to further project development in Greece. It is important to mention the over 100 million investment on environmental projects and much more to the local community. According to the new investment agreement, the Hellas Gold and Eldorado Gold will continue on capital investment and support the local community. Passing to the core of my presentation, I would like to present you some initiatives which we received during last years to improve our response in an emergency case. Mining activity, as many other occupational activities, characterized as high risk. We need to identify the hazards and evaluate them to mitigate our exposure on them, so to mitigate the risk. We always face between the hazards and the risks, and we have an obligation to establish all the necessary controls to eliminate the exposure. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with the scheme, hierarchy of controls, and we need to implement it in our operation. As well as with this scheme, the model of the Swiss cheese, in which of accident causation illustrate that although many layers of defense lie between hazards and accidents, there are flaws in each layer that, if aligned, can allow the accident to occur. But all of us know very well, and maybe we have experience on managing bad incidents, as we see in that photos, because bad things always happen. The only way to be possible to manage a negative and tough situation is the right preparation on all levels and establishing of as much as possible level of defense. And of course, the right preparedness of the organization. In any case, in mining sector, the last line of defense in an underground mine are only the emergency response team. A well-prepared emergency response team can respond immediately and save lives and mitigate the impact. The establishing of emergency response team is also mandatory on the mining sector according to the regulation of mining and quarrying, and is required in any mining company. The creation and development of an emergency response team is a tough decision. Many difficult questions should be answered and need significant investment of time and money. The most important thing for the organization is to involve the right stakeholder, which should commit from the beginning and continuously. The company and the employees are the most important stakeholder, and both should be equal part of the same equation. So, what is emergency? It is a situation that poses an immediate risk to health, life, property, or environment. As any operation activity in the mining sector, even the function of emergency response team need a risk management. All the possible risks of the emergency response team should be assessed, analyzed, evaluate, treat, and register. And the most important, should be established the right control measures to eliminate the risk of the emergency response team. In this picture, even if you can't see it very clear, is the top 10 risk assessment for our emergency response team, which cover all the existing rescue plans which we have developed. As you can see, the initial evaluation classified all the hazards in a very high level of risk, is the red column, which we can see. But with the right control measures, we can decrease most of them to very acceptable levels. And how we achieve them. At the phase of the organization, preparedness, a significant document work should be done. In this list, a few very critical documents presented which are mandatory to give to the organization the path of the success. Crisis management plan covers the preparation of the senior management and the internal and external communication, as well the necessary approvals in an emergency case. Emergency response plan covers the announcement and the response on the working place for the personnel in different emergency cases. Additional, include a significant part of emergency response team preparation and response. It is the most important document for the functionality of emergency response team, and with the crisis management are the core of the emergency operation. All the rest are supportive documents, processes, and procedures to achieve the full implementation of them, which cover the part of infrastructures, equipment, maintenance, and emergency response team members. Because the infrastructures, equipment, and the people are the most important thing. In these slides, I present you a few evacuation plans for surface facilities, buildings, and underground mine. To be covered all the facilities, you can understand that we have a small encyclopedia, and it must be available in all incident control rooms. Last year, we also improved our mines rescue station according to the international standards. The new building offered us great autonomy in our operation and can support for a long time the intervention of the emergency response team. Additional, our Operation Security Center can receive any announcement through telephone devices or radios and can mobilize the organization in all levels. In less than 5 minutes, all the main stakeholders are aware for the incident. In our facility, we have identified 4 different places which can be used as incident control rooms and can support all the type of incidents. In all of them, the necessary documents and equipment are available anytime. We need to work on a daily basis to prepare ourselves for an emergency situation. Many times, this is not obvious and we miss it. The only way is to repeat regularly to the stakeholders the risk assessment and keep them focused on it. In this image, you can see Olympia's mine evacuation plan with the distribution of the refuge chambers along the mine, and that points should take under account accordingly to the daily task assignment by mining supervisors. Otherwise, they put on the risk their employees. But this is not enough. At the same time, the regularly necessary controls of the system should complete it according to the procedures to keep everything functional for the point of time we need them. We are trying continuously to keep our equipment in the best continuous conditions and to improve them. Few photos of some vehicles which we have. The company has 4 ambulances, 4 fire vehicles, and this period we are preparing the new rescue vehicle. The detailed recording of equipment and the monitoring of their certification and maintenance is an ongoing process that requires a large amount of available resources in order to be on constant alert. But always the most important part is the people preparedness. The preparation of our emergency response team began many years before. We started with very basic knowledge. During all that years, we believe that we have been developed a commitment group of people who understand their accountability. On that photos, you can see part of the emergency response team captain's training according to the Australia framework, which we follow. This framework covers the firefighting, underground and the surface, vehicle accident rescue, first aid, high-angle rescue, confined space rescue, and much more.
Mr. Davcis, you have 5 more minutes.
Okay. On 2019, we achieved to certify half of our captains according to the Australian framework, and we had planned to do the same for the rest of the captains during 2020, but COVID restrictions postponed our plans, and we are planning to achieve in this year. Nevertheless, the training program of the rescue team continues on a regular monthly basis, either internally or externally, while we also carry out continuous exercise both for all the staff, and we participate in mobilization of the rescue team in order to estimate the reaction time. Our constant concern and striving for improvement has led us to constantly look for new ways. New technologies can make a significant contribution in this area and can help to improve people, but also to reduce cost, risk during training, and the environmental footprint. In the video that follows, I present our latest education effort using simulator. In this specific activity, except the representation of new technologies, we also had the ability to come closer and collaborate with the local firefighting departments, which always very helpful, and each company should invest on that relations to prepare itself, but also to support the authorities.
Η ύπαρξη μιας ομάδας επέμβασης σε μια μεταλλευτική εταιρεία είναι πολύ σημαντική και ιδιαίτερα να είναι σωστά εκπαιδευμένη.
Τα σωστικά συνεργεία και οι ομάδες αντιμετώπισης εκτάκτων αναγκών αποτελούν ζωτικό και αναπόσπαστο μέρος των μεταλλευτικών λειτουργιών.
Η Ελληνικός Χρυσός επενδύει στην υγεία και την ασφάλεια των ανθρώπων με την οργάνωση και εκπαίδευση σωστικών συνεργείων και ομάδων διαχείρισης περιστατικών, καθώς και οργάνωση ασκήσεων εκένωσης με σκοπό τη βελτίωση και ετοιμότητα όλων.
Η αντιμετώπιση βιομηχανικών πυρκαγιών, μαζικών τραυματιών, καθώς και έρευνας διάσωσης προσωπικού σε υπόγεια ορυχεία είναι μερικά από τα πεδία εκπαίδευσης των εθελοντών διασωστών των μεταλλίων Κασάνδρας τα τελευταία χρόνια.
Στα υπόγεια είναι ιδιαίτερες συνθήκες, χρειάζονται ιδιαίτερα μέσα, ιδιαίτερη εμπειρία, η οποία αποκτάται από τέτοιες εκπαιδεύσεις.
Καθώς ωστόσο μια άσκηση προσομοίωσης δεν μπορεί να προσεγγίσει τους κινδύνους που θα συναντήσει κάποιος στο πεδίο, στην πραγματική τους διάσταση, η τεχνολογία έρχεται να καλύψει και τον τομέα αυτό με καινοτόμες λύσεις. Με το εξελιγμένο εκπαιδευτικό σύστημα προσομοίωσης Flame Trainer, που πρώτη η Ελληνικός Χρυσός έφερε στην Ελλάδα, οι διασώστες μας μπορούν να βιώσουν και να κατανοήσουν κινδύνους που ενδέχεται να αντιμετωπίσουν κατά τη διάρκεια ενός περιστατικού πυρκαγιάς με μηδενική πραγματική έκθεση σε κίνδυνο, αλλά με τη μέγιστη εκπαιδευτική αποτελεσματικότητα.
Όλες οι εκπαιδεύσεις συμβάλλουν, ιδιαίτερα αυτή η εκπαίδευση virtual reality που κάναμε σήμερα ήταν και πολλά σενάρια και πολύ ενδιαφέροντα σενάρια και μάλιστα χωρίς κόστος και χωρίς να κινδυνεύει το προσωπικό από οτιδήποτε.
Με τη γνώση που αποκομίζουν, οι εκπαιδευόμενοι θα μπορούν στο μέλλον να λάβουν τις σωστές αποφάσεις με κύριο γνώμενο την ασφάλειά τους κατά τα πρώτα στάδια εξέλιξης μιας πυρκαγιάς.
Έχει πετύχει σε πραγματικές συνθήκες φωτιάς, ήταν πολύ κοντά στην πραγματικότητα.
Υπήρχαν στιγμές που ένιωσα ότι όντως η φωτιά ήταν δίπλα μου, τα αντικείμενα.
Σε σχέση με πραγματικές επόμενες ασκήσεις ένιωσα μεγαλύτερη πίεση.
Καλό είναι να γίνονται πιο συχνά αυτές οι εκπαιδεύσεις, διότι βοηθούν και εμάς που είμαστε θελοντές διασώστες και μας βάζουν πιο πολύ στο ρεαλιστικό σενάριο.
Ευελπιστούμε και είναι χαρά μας να μπορούμε να συνεργαστούμε με μια ομάδα άμεσης επέμβασης η οποία είναι σε τόσο καλό επίπεδο.
Ελληνικός χρυσός, αλλά και τα σωστικά συνεργεία και οι ομάδες αντιμετώπισης έκτακτων αναγκών εργαλείων Κασάνδρας δεσμεύονται πως θα συνεχίσουν να καινοτομούν, να εκπαιδεύονται και να εξοπλίζονται προκειμένου να αποτελούν εγγυητή της ασφάλειας των συναδέλφων αλλά και του περιβάλλοντος το οποίο φιλοξενεί τη δραστηριότητά μας.
We will continue to invest in our rescue team, even if we hope to never need them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davtis. As the Latins said, if you want peace, prepare for war. So exactly what you are doing, we are watching closely on your efforts from the petroleum business, and we have also tried this VR tool as well. It's really impressive. If I may ask a question, since you have experimented on virtual reality training, have you considered digitizing the plans and procedures in your control rooms so that when the time comes, the sequence of events, of actions, of communications is not up to a person to remember or to study in a manual, but can be partially automated?
We started to work on that, so to digitalize everything. Most of this work have done, but something that is really important, and I think that we have lost during all these days, is that in an emergency case, it is possible to use very basic resources. So maybe you have no electricity, no access, network access or whatever. So you need to prepare yourself for many difficult levels. So we have do many preparation on that. We have hard copies, we have digital files, we have common network access, but also we have satellite access to somehow to cover all the communication, because the communication is one of the most important part in an emergency case. And because we are so familiar and our life changed so much now, I'm not sure that we have the ability, if we lost the communication level that we use in our regular life, how to live without it.
True. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's my privilege to present Mr. George Floridis from the Electrical Authority of Cyprus. He is a mechanical engineer. Nobody's perfect. We cannot all be chemical engineers, of course, but he has a very, very interesting topic to share with us about managing risk and through permit to work in electrically live installations. If one studies the statistics of the Greek authorities, they will see that the two main reasons of fatalities in all industries is working at heights and electricity. So, Mr. Floridis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Giallios. I will share my screen and start with the presentation.
You have studied in Aachen, I see.
Yes, that's correct.
The capital of Charlemagne.
Yes.
And the Holy Roman Empire.
It's true, yes. So it's clear, the presentation?
Yes,
on the
yes.
Screen?
Perfectly clear.
So, dear colleagues, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of the 14th SAFETY GALA for the kind invitation I have. The subject of my presentation is managing of high-risk working environment, focused on the risks of working near or with electricity and electrical equipment. Through my presentation, I will try to capture the overall picture of the health and safety issues arising from the maintenance process of the buildings of distribution substations. So as for the outline of my presentation, I will give you briefly an introductory information about the Electricity Authority of Cyprus and additional updates on the current working environment at substations with focus on the health and safety issues. I will then explain the available infrastructure inside of the substation, as well as the process followed for the maintenance works on substation buildings. Moreover, I will explain the step-by-step the procedure to issue a permit to work and the instruction to the staff involved in the maintenance works. So the Electricity Authority of Cyprus is an independent public corporate corporation established under the Electricity Development Law of 1952 in order to exercise and perform functions relating to the generation, transmission, distribution, and supply of electric energy in Cyprus. The vision of the organization is to ensure the highest quality of safe and reliable services in the energy sector and other activities, of course, respecting at the same time the environment and the society and contributing to the development of the country. Currently, EAC runs 3 power stations with total installed capacity of 1,478 megawatts. EAC pursues an environmental strategy in line with the national energy policy and the European Union directives, aiming to reduce its environmental footprint by increasing renewable energy sources. And in terms of environmental protection, Electricity Authority recognizes the impact arising from the nature of its operation and follows an integrated strategy which yields to measurable results such as reduction of the CO2, the NOx, and the SO2 emissions. So the Electricity Authority of Cyprus is one of the biggest organizations in Cyprus. As previously mentioned, the main activities relate to the generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. It is obvious that we are working in an environment with multiple and complex risks, such as working with or close to live power lines and equipment, working at heights on a daily basis, and many times at towers up to 40-50 meters height, working under extreme weather conditions in winter and the summer to ensure the continuous supply of electricity to the customers and consumers. And we operate pressurized equipment such as steam and gas turbines, auxiliaries, and equipment that being under high pressure and high temperature. So the management, however, of all these high risk is becoming challenging due to the fact that the mission of the Electricity Authority is to provide continuous and uninterrupted electricity for industry and households. The main hazards of working with electricity are, of course, electric shock and burns from contact with live parts. This mostly leads to fatal injury, as well as injury from exposure to arcing, which could also become a fatal accident and fatal injury. Fire from faulty electrical equipment, from faulty electrical equipment or installation. Explosion caused under unexpected conditions. That is when the electric insulation medium, which is gas or oil, fails to absorb the internal arc caused by switching or any other technical reason. And of course, electric shock can also lead to other types of injury, as for example, by causing a fall from ladders or scaffolding, etc. So in this presentation, I will refer to risks related to the maintenance, repair, and reconstruction of distribution substations buildings. There are more than 10,000 distribution substations located in neighborhoods, in apartment buildings, in industrial buildings, and so on. Several of these substations have various construction problems due to building aging. More specific, in a distribution substation, the voltage is converted from a medium level, 11 kilovolts, to the lower level of 420 volts, and then distributed to the consumers and customers. In a typical distribution substation, we can find the following equipment. We have medium and low voltage cabling, medium voltage switchgear, the distribution transformer, and street lighting, the low voltage cable distribution panel, which I will mention it later on more specifically, low voltage consumption meters, electrical installations in the substation, and etc. The picture on this left, on the left, shows a circuit breaker of the medium voltage, which use gas SF6 for the dielectric insulation to absorb the arcing during operation, and on the right-hand side, a corresponding one which uses oil dielectric insulation. These equipment are used to disconnect a number of consumers who are connected on a certain circuit from the network, either for maintenance or any other work needed to be done on the network. Although the above equipment does not have any exposed parts that could lead to an electrocution, we want to avoid unexpected conditions and that could lead to an accident. However, on this slide, we see the two types of distribution panels, via which the electricity is distributed to the end users. The picture on the right-hand side shows the oldest type of distribution panel, which is open, is of the open type. That means with bare parts being alive. In this case, the risk of electrocution is very, very, very high. And this is actually the major problem when works are carried out while the substation is alive. The picture on the left, however, shows a newest technology which is closed, isolated, without parts being exposed. And this is the newest technology we are using and replacing with the oldest one I mentioned before. So a routine maintenance on the building takes several days or even weeks, depending on the works needed to be done. It is obvious that we cannot have a continuous interruption of the electricity supply, as this inevitably would have a negative impact on our consumers. As a matter of fact, most of the works should be carried out while the substation operates. Due to the above circumstances, the works in such an environment are bearing high risks. It is therefore essential to carefully manage and control these risks during the construction works from the contractor. So in this presentation, I will try to analyze the procedure we implemented in order to eliminate risks during maintenance on substation buildings, keeping the power supply interruptions to minimum duration as possible. So the expected works needed to be done on the distribution substation buildings are construction of new channels for installation of new equipment, ripping loose plasters and repair and reinforce the structure whenever it's needed. In some cases, we need also to replace the roof completely. That is a very difficult situation and very complicated. Crack repairs, masonry and roof coatings, removal installation of metal vents and frames, demolition of walls, removal installation of doors and windows or replacement, renew and extend the electrical installation for new services, repairment or reconstruction of the concrete bases, etc. So the two pictures on this slide show the internal view of a typical medium distribution substation after excavation and sand removals. We observe here, we notice here the circuit breaker, the transformer, the distribution board, and the cabling. The exposed cables will be, if works will be done, in this case, we will repair the basement of the beton basement where the equipment are installed. So the cables will be temporarily covered to allow the contractor to proceed with the necessary repairs works on a concrete base. And the continuous monitoring during the works is performed by an authorized person of the Electricity Authority of Cyprus. An extra caution should be given to the use of suitable tools, as the use of sharp tools, watering the beton, etc., is not permitted. Application of concrete should be done manually. That is, no concrete pumps are allowed to be used. On this, so here we have the flow diagram on this slide, which shows the two-step procedure we follow to issue the permit to work before allowing the contractor to enter the substation building and proceed with the relevant maintenance works. So initially, a competent person of EAC visits the building together with the contractor civil engineer and the safety coordinator. They discuss the technical issues arises for the maintenance works to be done for the specific substation. That is the kind of construction works, the proposed procedures, the tools and equipment allowed to be used in the substation in this case, etc. Then the permit to work form for the safety protection measures is then completed by the authorized person of EAC, and the contractor should read them carefully and understand the measures, the content of the permit, and sign it in a duplicated form. And a copy of this permit is kept by the authorized person who is responsible to implement the temporary safety measures. That means to cover the distribution board with isolated blankets, or short interruption of the electricity supply if needed, etc., so that under his supervision, the contractor will proceed to install the permanent protective measures for the construction works. That is the wooden cabinet. I'm going to explain it in the next slide. For the distribution board, protection of any other equipment if necessary, temporary cover of the cables, as I mentioned before, etc. This is the first step and the first step of the permit to work. In the second step, a second visit by the competent person of EAC is followed to inspect the effectiveness of the protective safety measures implemented by the contractor. If these satisfy the rules of EAC, then the final permit to work to allow the contractor to start the construction works is issued, and the contractor could proceed with the maintenance under the supervision of an authorized person from Electricity Authority of Cyprus.
Mr. Floridis, you have 5 more minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. So, of course, before starting any kind of works, an introduction course and to the staff of the contractor, and the protection and guidelines for the production measures are essential. So on this slide, on the current slide, we show the design of the wooden protective cabinet or cover with doors for the low voltage distribution panel. This is special designed for the open type distribution panels which has bare parts being alive. The doors are locked, and only authorized person could have an access in case of a defect or to carry out any operations on the network may be needed during operation. The protective cover could be removed only when all maintenance activities are completed and the permit to work is cancelled by the competent person of the electricity authority. The doors are locked during constructions maintenance at all time and accessible only by the EEC operation engineer. In this slide, you can notice the signage alerting people for being cautious for work in progress, which is displayed on the entrance of the substation. We also see here, an overview of the protective cabinet on the distribution board inside the substation. So before entering, as I said, the distribution substation and begin with any kind of construction works, we organize an introduction course to the staff of the contractors, where the risk and the guidelines will be explained and analyzed. We explain the meaning of the warning signs, which indicates that the substation is works under progress. It is important to keep the entrance of the doors of the substation open during working for ventilation and for escaping purposes. If on entering the the substation or during working into the substation, the staff notice unusual noise, odors, smoke, or oil leaks, then they must exit immediately the substation and inform the competent officer of the electricity authority. The contractor shall nominate at least 2 certified first aiders trained in CPR at every work site. This is a contract term also. And upon entering the substation, the type of distribution panel shall be immediately identified by observation, especially the open type 1. So before commencing any kind of works, and if the distribution panel, the pillar is of the open type, it is essential that the distribution panel shall be covered with protective cabinet as previously explained. Work on excavated substations should be carried out with extreme caution due to the risk of falling and accidental contact with equipment or cables being alive, although these cables and equipment are isolated and insulated. And during moving and working inside the substation where cables are exposed after excavation, it is prohibited by the electricity authority regulations to come in contact with them, although they have a good insulation and there is not a direct risk by touching them. But we want to avoid any incident that could be caused by damaged insulation if anywhere is happening. So we keep the duration of the personnel in the substation as minimum as possible. And when personnel entering distribution substations, they are prohibited from carrying long metals, objects such as metallic scaffolding, irons, and whatever. If this is any work requires to use such materials and tools, shall be done only under the strict supervision of competent person of EAC. Special care is required when concrete and iron reinforcement is applied for the construction of bases, channels, or repairments. And all these works will be done under the strict supervision of an authorized person being continuously monitoring the works of the contractors. So in several cases, works need to be done also on the roof outside of the substation to renew or repair the roof insulation. Of course, this kind of works involves the risk of falling from heights, and to eliminate it, we use the following measures. Either The roof either is protected with guardrails or scaffolding covering the height of the roof with the corresponding protective brackets, or we use harnesses and a fixed anchorage point which restrict the workers' movement to the safe distance from the edge of the roof and eliminate the risk of falling. And all this is a part of the general health and safety plan, which is required under the law to be implemented by the contractor before starting any kind of works. So this is briefly the measures we use to protect and work in an environment where electricity is present, and of course it's extreme high risk area and need special cautions, as most of the people does not understand the electricity, because you cannot see it, you cannot
smell it, you cannot touch it,
or whatever. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Floridis. Indeed, it's a risk most of the people do not understand or do not realize. A couple of questions, if I may, and I'll try to get in touch with you about the excavation procedures. We had a couple of serious incidents, thankfully not involving fatalities, but with substantial economical impact to our operation during excavation of medium voltage cables, and we are trying to reassess the excavation procedure, not only with regard to the type of tools, but also the whole methodology, meaning pneumatic
Yes.
excavation sometimes, things like that. But this is very technical. I saw your flow chart on the work permit, on issuing the work permit. I would like to ask, who verifies the actual application of the safety measures on site? Is a person from the company, not from the contractor, on site checking those safety measures?
Yes, it's an authorized person from the Electricity Authority of Cyprus. It's either the site engineer, who is an authorized person, and he is responsible to inspect and verify that all the measures are completed and
excellent.
signed.
Excellent. And the second question, I saw that there is a safety induction prior to commencing the works,
yes,
probably with the people that are going to be on site.
Exactly.
In our experience, we require for our contractors to be trained prior to entering the installation. I understand this is a different scenario, but have you considered as an authority to require that contractors will be trained on electricity hazards before they start the work, and they will be educated on site only on the specific risks and not on the generic risks of the work?
Well, practically, it's done as you said. There is, first of all, we ask the contractor to nominate the personnel who will be involved in the project. So at the beginning of the project, we have an induction, an extensive induction training, explaining all the risk and problems that they will meet in this area, in this risk area, and then prior of any substations, we give the guidelines that I showed in the, we make a brief introduction with the guidelines I showed in my presentations to the staff. We will start entering the substation to remind them again the risk and the problems they will have to face.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. it has become a habit to introduce Mr. Ioannidis in all the fora and conventions we meet, but it's not just a habit, it's a pleasure to introduce Mr. Serafim Ioannidis from DESFA, from the natural gas sector, with, I don't need to say much, more than 28 years of experience in health, safety and environment in the oil and gas business, which needs no further explanation, I think. We understand each other. He's going to talk to us about another critical aspect of safety in high-risk industries, which is management of change. Indeed, in the literature, and unfortunately not only the literature, there are many cases of incidents with high impact incidents that were due to lack or wrong application of management of change. So, Serafim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Asterios. I knew until today that you managed to make every conversation interesting and warm. But today I realized that you can do it just as well in virtual conversation.
I prefer face-to-face, always.
Thank you very much.
Please.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this wonderful event that has been running for 14 consecutive years. Management Force and all the partners who contributed to the realization of the conference. Mr. Panopoulos, whom I have known for many, many years for his expertise in safety issues and beyond. But above all the speakers and participants that insist on safety during difficult years between, think about it, pandemics and wars. We all know that safety thrives when there is a comfortable business environment and not when things get tough and markets are strained. Then the survival rule of any company overshadows safety issues, which in turn creates opportunities for accidents, for unsafe condition or unsafe situation. So it is an honor to be part of this gala, but it's also an obligation. It is our duty to support any good initiative that will increase the level and awareness of safety. But it is a greater obligation to share our concerns and initiatives and cooperate at all costs. After all, the title of the gala is spot on, a time for a shared vision. In this way, I believe we can coordinate and win every battle and challenge day by day. But let's start. During my presentation, I will present two large-scale HSE initiatives. But first of all, let's see what we define as a large-scale or company-wide initiative at DESFA. DESFA operates facilities throughout Greece, and recently we've expanded our activities to Kuwait. So when we design initiatives, we need to decide on their goal and accordingly on their scale. To help in our analysis, we set goals based either on risk or culture. On one hand, we, as all companies, perform a risk assessment, we review it, update, and we also use it as our guide on risk-based goals. Our process will determine if we have a new risk appearing. We recalculate the risk level, or we need to make a reminder after detecting failures or in our applied measures. According to the extent of our people or activities affected, the initiative will be unit-oriented, for example, something specifically for people exposed to energized system, facility-oriented, new employees, or facility-specific equipment, or like, for example, the whole COVID situation, company-wide risks that we need to manage holistically. On the other hand, culture-based initiatives are our way of moving forward. These are company-wide initiatives, like the HSE Championship initiative that I will present a few slides later, that are aimed at a cultural level change in the organization. Today, I will present two large-scale company initiatives. One is a risk-based initiative, and the other one is culture-oriented. Safety driving. According to what I said before, this is an initiative we designed in order to manage one of the top risks for the health and safety of our employees. During our risk assessment, we involve our employees. We hand out questionnaires and we consider the feedback into our final assessment. The risk of driving has ranked first among the risks recognized by our employees. Our assessment is further complemented by European and global statistics. According to the International Organization of Oil and Gas Producers, driving-related incidents are historically the largest cause of deaths in the operation of oil and gas companies worldwide. In Europe, 28%, almost 28% of all safety incidents in gas companies are driving-related. Some data regarding our driving experience and habits. On average, we record more than 4 million kilometers per year.
Mr. Iossifidis, sorry for the interruption, but you didn't share your presentation.
Thank you very much. I forget it.
Well, I thought it was part of a really long introduction.
So now you can see, I suppose.
Yes, yes, perfectly.
Thank you, and excuse me. It's virtual reality. We need to have some induction time. So, safe driving. According to what I said before, this is an initiative we designed in order to manage one of the top risks of the health and safety of our employees. As I told before, as you can understand, operating a 1.5 thousand pipeline requires driving in rough terrain for long hours and in some cases under stress. Our technicians are required to go to a station, perform maintenance operations, and then return back to base or move to the next station. Our monitoring also requires patrolling and on-call intervention in the middle of the night. We use city vehicles, trucks, vans, and off-road vehicles. Our fleet, due to COVID, was almost double since we decided to apply one man per car policy. Measures in place. As we all recognize risks, we already have measures in place. Each vehicle is inspected before handover to the designated driver. Tire pressures, oil, lights, and so on and so forth are part of the checklist used. It's a given that all vehicles undergo regular service, are monitored for damage, and the in-car logbook has a comments section so that anyone can make comments. Our vehicles are equipped with IVMS, in-vehicle monitoring system. It is a GPS system that real-time monitors the movements of our vehicles and informs us regarding overspeeding, harsh braking, rapid acceleration, seatbelt, hours of driving. Since most would ask if it is compliant with the GDPR, we do not use names. We have a contractor monitor the vehicles, and on his screen, he only sees code numbers, and only a few selected people have access to the complete information and can only use it during an emergency. Regularly, we analyze the driving behavior and issue a report with things we've noticed, like areas that people tend to overspeed, facilities that are not maintaining very high performance. I've included a print screen of the report in the next slide. We've included in our permit to work system a journey management plan. basically, we organize our maintenance schedule in a way to reduce unnecessary travels. We also include a map where we mark the nearest fire station, hospital, and of course other major aspects of the area. Lastly, for all accidents, we perform investigation with a root cause analysis. We issue lessons learned and of course statistical analysis. On the next slide, you can see a screenshot of the semester report. Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So, for 2021, we designed with the help of a group of experts, of course, an initiative called Safe on Road. It ran for 2 months, covering all our facilities. We involve our technical personnel since they are the ones that do most of the driving. We created small 8-person groups and delivered practical and theoretical training. We used our cars, driving on streets that we take and the skating slopes that we need to do, as you can see in the picture. The theoretical training was performed by 2 trainers. One was presenting the mechanics of driving, conditions, etc., while the other was a professional driver. To avoid distractions, we held the training at an outside venue under tents. The practical part was the most interesting part for everybody. Each driver spent at least 2 hours behind the wheel, using 3 different types of vehicles, on and off-road. The trainers presented conditions, drills, and tasks that our personnel had to perform and guided them throughout the whole process. In total, we had 32 sessions, trained more than 130 drivers, and provided one of the most interesting and well-thought training of the past years related to health and safety. We had no complaint from the participants, but a whole lot of nagging from people working indoors. Our next step will include expanding this training without the off-road element to all designated drivers and most of the office employees. The next initiative, HSE Championship. I will present this an interactive employee engagement, and it is what I describe as a culture-oriented initiative since it aims at shifting our HSE culture towards the next step. At the moment, we are at a place where we have well-defined safety rules. We assume responsibility, attention is given to health and safety, but it's often driven by self-interest. It is what is described as a calculating step of safety culture. We want to move to the proactive step, where safety is of high priority, deeply ingrained in our operations. We launched an HSE championship after the demand of our CEO. This is very important, and here bold proclamation that we will go for 0 accidents. To do that, we need to make investments in rising safety awareness and encourage employees to confront one another with unsafe behavior. As a company, we have more than 500 employees, the majority being technicians. As head of HSE division, I can proudly say that since 2011, we did deliver more than 1,500 hours of HSE-specific training per year. Since 2018, and I ask that you remember this year, we've further raised that number to over 2,500 hours. Still, we record at least 1 accident leading to more than 3 days of work per year. As I said before, we are at the calculated step in our culture, in the what's in it for me stage. Involvement in safety and compliance with rules and laws is mainly the task of management. We have developed a health and safety at work system according to ISO 80,000 since 2009. About a year ago, adopted the new ISO 45,000 and monitor all facilities and activities. A structured system of course comes with the benefits of monitoring, commitment, etc. We have our audits, management review, documentation, and so on and so forth. Lastly, we have a permit to work system. We include a mini risk assessment for each activity, helping our people see clearly what risk they take with each activity. I mean, we have a permit to work system in electronic one, okay? A toolbox talk is held every time before starting the work. There are all the members of the team discuss and agree in the issue at hand, declare if anything is out of the ordinary, and note down any undefined risk and the measures they will take. Before presenting why we decided to hold this how can I say it, a tournament, what benefits we expect, I will shortly present how we held it. First off, participation. We made an announcement to everyone in the company. Our CEO had already declared that we would run this championship about 1 year ago, but then everything stopped due to COVID. The announcement said that everyone could participate as soon as he shared an HSE issue with us. Of course, the members of the HSE Q division are silently excluded. It could be anything from an unsafe condition, a near miss, a good idea. To make this simpler, we ask them to contact us directly. We have a specific email account and communication line in all facilities and a specific application. Each submission is assessed. We set up a committee, a few simple rules for assessing ideas, and a point system. Don't imagine something fancy, just a rough estimation of points to be awarded for each submission. Additionally, we ask the line manager of each participant for their feedback regarding the HSE commitment demonstrated during everyday activities, which is the most important. And
Serafim, 5 more minutes, sorry.
Thank you. To HSE issues. The last part of the championship, and to be frank, the one pending, is the award. We have a dedicated safety at work. We are planning to announce the winners at this point. I should say that we have 5 awards in total, 2 for health and safety, 2 for environment, and of course, 1 grand award. We have decided on their prize yet. We would like to avoid a monetary award, and we are thinking of other options. What benefits are we expecting from the HSE Championship initiative? As it was the original goal, we would like to see an enhancement of our HSE culture, a shift to a more proactive approach to all HSE issues. The first and most important step is building awareness. We want people to see safety, to speak about safety, and to hear about safety. We want our trash bin to remain empty, while our recycling programs reach new heights. We don't want HSE to be a set of rules. We want it to be a part of our everyday, in and outside of work. By running the championship, we got more near misses reported than in any other year. We always try to find ways to set up friendly competition, whether between facilities, departments, or employees. This championship will help in building some friendly rivalry and shake things up. Of course, we got some new ideas and proposals regarding the way we do things. People share their experience and their thoughts on improving methods and approaches. As it happens, always happens when you give people a room to speak and assure them that they will be heard. We got several proposals that were interesting, to say the least. We can adopt all of them, of course, but some of them will be considered. The most interesting fact was that we got the same proposal for people belonging to different facilities, proving that they have the same problems and worry about the same things. The last benefit, I will call it a benefit, is that we will create a new role in the company. The HSE champions will be ambassadors in their facilities. They are people that value the safety of all those around them, unafraid to speak up. Workers like this are typically characterized as trustworthy, capable, and insightful, ready to go above and beyond with the guidance of materials, resources, and instruction. They are culture keepers, establishing a safe and productive environment through international behavior. That's all for me.
Thank you. We know the story. We are in parallel in the same journey for some years now. If I may ask a couple of questions, I will not ask, for obvious reasons, if you have seen a decrease in incident rates, etc., etc. but I dare to ask if you have seen an increase in near miss reporting.
We have already seen improvement about safety driving, a real one with numbers. No, about regarding near misses, no, we have the same level, but this is a kind of perspective. If you see a near miss like, how can I say, an accident, yes, of course, we need to have less. But if you can see near miss as an opportunity for improvement, or someone say that 10 near misses is equal to one accident, this is statistical, I suppose, then I want to have more near misses. Even the most, how can I say, silly one.
Trivial, yes.
Yes, it's a kind of culture.
In my experience, and in my failure, not just experience, if you have a lot of ideas, a lot of near miss reports, a lot of, the challenge is then how to manage them.
Exactly.
Because it's not that important if you actually apply the ideas that you are given. The main thing is to give feedback to the people that took the time and effort to write a near miss report, or give you a call, or write an email, or whatever. If they know that their voice has been heard,
yes,
they're happy. If they just throw the bottle with the message inside in the sea, it's frustrating for people. But we have come to a level of 200, 300 near misses per site per year, and it's challenging to manage them.
Yeah. This is the most hard, the most important, but also the hard point of this situation. I'd like to point out that, as I told you, we have a new business in Kuwait. So we find out that once again, Greek people outside work in a better level. How can I say? We have triple the near misses there than we have in Greece.
They have a different culture.
There's different culture.
From a question from the audience, Mr. Badiaridakis, for Mr. Floridis. If Mr. Floridis is still with us.
Yes, with us, with you.
Okay.
Here.
Will you please share with us how this experience of yours is passed from the Electrical Authority of Cyprus to private projects and small contractors? It's also in the chat room.
Experience is passed from the Electrical Authority of Cyprus to private projects. No, well, this experience is not passed to other contractors, except in the case we have cooperation with them. So they learn from us about this permit to work, the small contractors, since we insist to them in the health and safety plan to include this procedure. So all the small contractors, and there is a lot of them, because this procedure we implemented not only in the substations of distribution substations, but also in the transmission substations. And during the last years, we have a lot of construction sites and development. So a lot of the contractors most of the contractors in Cyprus, they have been involved to make one or the other work for us. And so this is something that they have to implement in their health and safety plan. And therefore, they learned through this method the procedure we follow to implement.
Thank you. A question from Mr. Panopoulos to Mr. Ioannidis. do you consider near miss and near miss reporting as a leading or a lagging indicator?
Okay, very tricky question, but very nice, very juicy. For me, near miss is leading indicator. And this is the key. If you are looking on proactive things, you need to look on near misses like leading indicator. After all, it is very hard to find so many leading indicators. It's a very tough.
API has, for our business, Serafim, has some technical leading indicators like process safety events, like critical alarm rates and pressure safety valve openings, etc., failures, etc., technical, but non-technical.
Exactly.
It's a challenge.
Incorporate leading HSE indicators for sure. There are a lot regarding process safety. There are a lot because we have so many data, let's say, and very solid data.
A question from Mr. Papavasiliou from the audience. To all, could you name some new risks that you have included in the last risk assessment reviews? I have already answered non-technical, because technical are site-specific. COVID, of course.
Yes.
And generally health-related issues with regards to pandemics, and mental health issues, including lobbying, bullying, etc. But Mr. Floridis, Mr. Dravtsis, Mr. Ioannidis, please.
If I can say something on that.
Please.
Due to the COVID conditions, we know very well that the restriction measures that they implemented from the government side for remotely work, it's something new for our experience. The people work from home. The people maybe don't have the ability to do this. They don't have the necessary support to do this. And something that which I faced is that the people work out of the facilities that we can control, so we can't, as health and safety professional, we can't assess the condition of the work. We can start from the very basic, the chair which they used, the desk, the
lighting,
musculoskeletal issues, but also electrical panels. If they protect themselves or they installed correctly all the stuff that they need. And of course,
more soft issues like times you work.
The next one will be this. We started to work out of the normal working time. Nights, even so. We have many disruptions from the family members, and of course, this is something else that has a significant impact to our families.
And the other way around, exactly.
This is something new.
Any other comments, ideas? Thank you, Mr. Dravtsis.
If I may, okay, sorry.
If I can say something. It's related to the COVID situation because we are the only one who supply electricity in the island, and it was very, very important to keep the business going on during the pandemic. We make some measures in case we had, for example, a problem in a substation. So if we need to replace an equipment, a transformer or a switchgear or whatever, how we can work with the measures for pandemic. So we developed some procedures so that not all the personnel were together in the same place at the same time, and we work in a small teams. So in case we had an incident with the COVID, not to affect all the technical stuff and being unable to give the uninterrupted supply of electricity to the customers and consumers and to the economy of the Cyprus. Thank you.
If I may something, yes, if I may do to add something, you know, we have the business continuity regarding pandemics, starting from the H1N1 2011, but we never imagined what we faced. We have to face last year. Asterios, you know what happened during the isolation period for our shifts. It was unbelievable. We tried very hard to fight with someone.
An unseen enemy.
Yeah, we didn't know so many things about him, so we're afraid about everything. Now we know that another one employee get the COVID and nobody cares. But it was very hard period. But for me, it was an opportunity for health and safety, mostly health, to be in the first priority of each company. Usually in the past, we are looking on health issues like, you know, just take a look on health issues and be focused on safety. From my point of view, from now on, we are looking for health more than safety. And this is because also health, it has to do with everybody. Safety almost cover, you know, the technicians, you know, the shifts, but not the management. But the health issues cover everyone. So that's why I have the feeling that health and safety, because of COVID, changed the level. This is true. This is my view.
So, since I don't have any more questions, and I would like to ask the organizers if we still have the time to give my presentation, or I have to sacrifice it for the sake of time. Counting one, counting two. Well, I'll go on. Try to go on. So, I'm going to try to give you, to keep you awake by using a fairy tale. Usually it's the other way around, but let's try. We are going to talk about a fictional tale, about a fictional refinery that had an expedited turnaround. A turnaround is a general maintenance of the refinery during winter and pandemic crisis. So, the dragon in the picture. The turnaround in this hypothetical refinery was scheduled for early May or March if process conditions mandated. A loss of containment in a major reactor and in the money-making unit, if I may say, of this hypothetical refinery, caused an emergency shutdown. At the same time, the natural gas prices, Mr. Ioannidis, are rising, and the economics of running the rest of the refinery were questionable. But it may look as an obvious situation. Let's go and do the turnaround now. But weather conditions are adverse. Turnarounds are carried out usually in late spring, early summer, or late summer, early autumn. COVID cases are soaring, particularly materials, catalysts, contractors. We don't know if they are available. The turnaround scope is okay, defined, but not 100% frozen. And of course, as you see from all the above, the health, safety, and security design is not yet complete. So the knight in the shining armor will come to save the day. How? First of all, do not invent the wheel. Try to make good use of what is already available. And why should I emphasize good use? An obvious example would be to take all the infrastructure from a previous turnaround and do a copy paste. But the previous turnaround was in 2019 and we didn't have a pandemic then. The previous turnaround did not have the same scope, so it did not have the same risks. So if you just do a copy paste, you are in a great danger of forgetting about very interesting and important things. First of all, to mobilize the HSE contractors. They will have to take some time until they come, so it's the first thing you do. Secondly, start working on the core document for those of us who work in Greek, το Σχέδιο Ασφάλειας και Υγείας, the HSE General Plan for the turnaround, and gather available safety plans and rescue plans from the previous turnaround. See what we have. 4, perform a risk assessment on every single job that needs to be done during this turnaround. From what we know at this specific time 0, late January. Of course, we are prioritizing the moneymaker unit. First of all, because it is already in turnaround, in shutdown, and secondly, because it's in a critical path. Start revising the safety and rescue plans. Start making new safety and rescue plans, again, prioritizing the moneymaker unit. Update the COVID company policy, because the last turnaround, it was in 2020, and in early 2020, there were no tests, almost no tests, only the I forget the term, but anyway, PCR tests. To include routine rapid and PCR tests for all the workforce, vaccinated or not, refinery, contractor, we don't care. Everybody gets tested twice a week at the gate. And foresee heated and ventilated tents in order to house people when they are having their coffee break, their lunch break, because this is where they will come at close contact without wearing any protective equipment. Third is to mobilize HELPE and contractor COVID officers. The COVID situation is not a refinery problem, is everybody's problem. So the contractors have to have their own policies, their own procedures, and do their own work. Of course, Big Brother is watching you. I'm the Big Brother. So we had the 24/7 surveillance of the work areas with a tethered drone. And at the same time, we had feet on the ground, safety officers, inspectors of the refinery and affiliated refineries. Of course, do not forget hypothetical refineries, and refinery firefighters, contracted safety officers and inspectors from the Greek word acronym EXIP, shifts of contracted rescue personnel for confined space auditing and rescue, if necessary, environmental audits, and coordination meetings. And we had some focused audits on high-risk issues, for example, lifting equipment and pressurized containers. Okay, happy ending. We are all very happy. Not. Because the hypothetical work on the hypothetical refinery is not over yet. There are 4 revisions of the HSE General Plan core document, more than 110 safety plans, more than 150 rescue plans, more than 6,200 work permits issued, 35 of them audited, These audits have generated more than 1,300 findings and recommendations, and training is going on continuously. More than 700 people trained either in-house or by third party, and counting. So we are eagerly waiting for the fat lady to sink and have our hypothetical Easter holidays in our hypothetical refinery, allegedly. And that's it from me. Any questions? We have reached the time limit. Unfortunately, no time for questions. Thank you all for your attention and your patience, and hope to see you in the rest of the event and in next events.